And one of the things that I notice that's pretty much across the board is there comes a point in time when people realize, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. We really got to face the situation, especially if there are people that have been ignoring their financial situation, or they got, in trouble with some stuff, or whatever the challenges may have been. They come to a point where they realize, I need to do better. I need to do something about this. What do I do? Who do I talk to? Can you just grab my hand and guide me through this process?
This is Better Wealth with Caleb Williams. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Better Wealth Live. I'm here with the one and only Jen. Welcome back to the Better Wealth Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Caleb. I'm so excited to be here again.
Oh man, we are so excited to have you part of the team. There's been so much stuff going on. You've been seeing some of the ups and downs of being involved in a startup that's changing the world. I want to get just kind of an idea report, an honest report about how you're currently doing, what things that you're seeing that's very exciting, what things you're seeing in the world. Like, there's just, in a world that we have a lot of uncertainty, I think 2020 is going to go down as being very interesting year for many. So I'd love to get an idea of like where you're at with that. And then I want to talk a little bit about organization as it relates to money, because I think you and I both we just noticed that there's a lot of people not being organized. And then you helped us put together an amazing, beautiful PDF for anyone that goes to our free training, our free X-ray training. And I want to walk through that with you. And so the audience, if you have not checked that out, you should definitely go check it out. And so that's what would be a win today for our Friday Live.
Absolutely. So my experience has been amazing. And just as a disclaimer, I don't know, for some reason, I don't know if it's something that I attract in my life for the many years. I'm that person that people ask, like, hey, we don't know what we're doing, but we know where we're heading. We don't know how we're going to get there yet, but do you want to be a part of that? And there's something magical to that. I'm not that person that needs every single thing figured out. I've always said I'm that person that's called fire ready aim, where I'm like, let's just jump and we'll figure it out as we're falling. And there's some excitement and magic to that for me. So for me, the whole experience with BetterWealth has just been incredibly amazing. One thing that and I'm totally being honest, and I'm not just saying this because it's you, Caleb.
I'm just paying her every minute. It's getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
So keep bringing it. Yeah.
Yes. And one thing that I have just been bragging on is just the quality of the people in the team. Yeah. I mean, the efficiency. So anybody listening, the thing that is so amazing to me is to see the efficiency. And that speaks a lot. That speaks volumes, because if I can stand from the outside looking in and now be on the inside, that tells me, that one phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so I know everybody has experience being in inefficient meetings. And with being in quarantine and COVID, many companies have discovered, like, hey, we really didn't need to have all these meetings. Hey, we really didn't need to spend 2 hours on XYZ. And so when we have our meetings every day, I mean, that has just been the biggest blessing, the huddle, and just being really efficient and very pinpointing out, like, what's my win? What am I going to take away? What am I aiming for? And just, it's so efficient. And it's like one of those things I look forward to every day. And so even the book club, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, I just brag on, like, oh my gosh, our meetings, oh my gosh, these. And here's another phrase that I think people need to hear. You hear that phrase about, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. It is such a blessing to be amongst thought leaders, amongst people where, like, I'm learning from. Yeah. It's just such an amazing environment. And then most of all, I think the biggest thing that I get out of it is that every single person on the team has a servant's heart. Yeah. Everybody really operates with character and integrity, really wanting the best for the client, really wanting to see them win, and then doing things the right way. I mean, you just put all that together. It has just been an incredible experience. And the other thing too, it's fun, for someone like me, that's like, you're thinking sometimes you're going on, it's not a straight path. I did this post the other day where, sometimes people have this vision where the path is like this straight linear line. No, it really looks like this.
Yeah.
And that's how it's been. But it's exciting because if you're going to be good to, hey, I can transition, I can be flexible, then you're going to win, because you cannot get stuck in expecting things to always be structured perfectly. You have to be able to, and I hate this word, it's like the bad word for pivot, because it's such an overused buzzword.
Yeah, totally.
But if you got to learn how to be able to pivot and stay flexible so that we can continue to head towards the goals that we're trying to achieve. But all in all, it's just been an incredible, amazing experience.
It's been incredible having you on the team. Number one, we have an incredible booth that was designed by yours truly. But we also, it's just been really great to have someone on the team that it does have so many conversations on the front lines, that speaks, that has experience writing books. And it really, for me, is an honor to not only call you a partner, but a teammate. And you're totally right with the servant's heart. I mean, if you didn't, or if someone on our team did not have a servant's heart, as cliche as that sounds, because everyone's going to say it, but what we have at BetterWealth is very, very special. And so thank you for sharing all those things. I'll make sure to write you a check afterwards for I'll tally up all the nice things that you said. And but no, I really appreciate that. And really the best is yet to come. I think one of the challenges is being new. We're still optimizing. As we speak, we're still dialing in the X-ray. We're going to be talking about the X-ray on this call and pointing people to something that we know is not perfect. And I think that's what makes us unique, is we're not, we very much are the company that we know where we're going. But when you talk about this ups and downs, we're experiencing that as we speak, because you're not just life is not just a linear line.
Absolutely. It's not. And when you can accept that, it'll make your journey so much better because you're aware and mindful of the situation.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about people coming to you that know what they want or can articulate the question, how do you define financial success? And I would love to get you ask any additional questions for people to really get them to know where they want to go. And then you mentioned something earlier about organization. I would love to walk through that process with you. But when someone comes to you, if they're like, Jen, I need help or I want help, where do you begin with them? And what are some of the common themes that you're seeing right now on the front lines?
Yes, this is so great to look at. And one of the things that I notice that's pretty much across the board is there comes a point in time when people realize, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. We really got to face the situation, especially if there are people that have been ignoring their financial situation, or they got, in trouble with some stuff, or whatever the challenges may have been. They come to a point where they realize, I need to do better. I need to do something about this. What do I do? Who do I talk to? Can you just grab my hand and guide me through this process? Because sometimes, people I don't want to think anymore. I'm so busy with so many things. I just want to be pointed in the right direction. And so that's the thing that I see that happens often, especially with the time that we're in right now. There's so much uncertainty. So people are kind of looking for that beacon of light and hope. And so when we start there, I have to take them back where, okay, first off, what are we trying to do here? What is it that you want to do? Because people have forgotten how to dream.
Exactly.
And especially with where we're at, we have to provide that space for people to think and dream again, because some people have really lost hope. And so it's so good to take them back to, okay, let's think about what is it that you ultimately want? What is the purpose of your life, your mission? Let's dream and talk about these things again so that we can instill that back into them. Because if we don't take them there, where is the point? Where are we going with this? There's not going to be that thing that holds them to be motivated to make the right choices, to make these changes that they need to do in order to make the numbers work. And I know you're going to talk about that, or we show that to people when we use the models. Yeah. And we show them hey, these things aren't lining up. And that's the other thing that's so beautiful, that we can show them through this model that it's very simple. If you do this, you're going to continue down this road. If you do this, this is what it could look like. And there's so much beauty in the simplicity of that. And so that's what I see. People are just looking for some answers. They want some guidance. Please don't make me confused. Don't take me down this rabbit hole. Let's just be straightforward. Tell me what I need to do. So I see that.
Yeah. What's the most common like thing that you see in the people being confused? Like, okay, so it's like, let's help them identify where they want to go. And I get that they need some guidance. What is there any common thing that you're like, I see this, there's a theme here.
Yeah. So you sort of mentioned it. It's the organization of it all. A lot of times we think, okay, and people are in different stages, people are in different categories. But there's some people that, oh, I want to start investing in this and I want to start building wealth and should I invest in XYZ? But, as the conversation unfolds, we start to realize like, wait a minute. The real root of everything is there's no organization.
Yeah.
People
Yes.
haven't opened their statements. They don't know where their policies are. They don't know balances on certain
Yep.
things, account balances, credit card balances. It's just kind of like, well, I think it's around. And then when I see that, I'm like, wait, we don't know.
Yep.
If you can't give me a number, then you don't know.
Yep.
And so I would say that's one of the biggest things that I see with debt. But at the end of the day, it really is coming down to, are you financially organized, and how do you start to go towards becoming financially organized and knowing where everything's at?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if Jeremy was here as well, he would say the same thing. There's common themes going on, and so one of the things I want to transition to is actually our financial X-ray. Now, classic Better Wealth. We're gonna have a link down below, and it's going to be. Stay tuned for the X-ray. I'll just put it that way. You can check out the link. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to take you to a page where it's going to be me going through like a 20-minute, video of me walking you through the framework, the wealth framework. Because a common question will be, Caleb, where should I start? And it's like interesting because it's like the answer is different for each person, but the way that we get to that answer is very similar. And so in the process of making this, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts. The reason why we have this page is to give people the roadmap, but then also invite people that want to do what we call the X-ray call. It's essentially do the same process with the Better Wealth coach and get a prescription / diagnosis. And it's really, really powerful. So one of the things that we did is I put together a really ugly Word document, shot it over to you, and I was like, hey, we got to beautify this. And in the process of us working through that, is there anything that you learned through that? I mean, I know we're going to go through it in just a second, but is there anything that you were like learned in even the process of going through this and making this?
I think it would just reiterated for me the organization of things and really forcing somebody to sit down and think, what do I have?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I really like too is that one category where they had to identify where that asset fell.
Yeah.
Is it cash flow? Is it, whatever the category was? And I think that was so powerful because a lot of people don't know. I think this is what I've seen also over the many years I've been in the financial space, is that we tend to collect a hodgepodge of various stuff. This is what I hear a lot.
Yeah.
Well, my dad opened up this life insurance policy when I was a kid. My mom opened up this Roth IRA when I was in high school. And it's just like, it's like here and there, no rhyme or reason. It's just a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And then that's what happens. And it's kind of like that person that comes into the office, virtually, not literally. And then they just dump everything on the table. Well, this is what I have. At least I'm doing something. And I think that's the challenge. It's like, you're not financially organized, but yet you got all these different instruments, but you don't know if they're playing in harmony. It's like when you hear the orchestra in the beginning of when they start, it's like they're fine tuning things, and nobody knows if anything is playing correctly or even the same song. And sometimes you might realize like you need to eliminate some of this stuff or combine it. But that's the other challenge. Is like if you don't organize it, you don't know what's supposed to fit in the plan.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like, is real estate bad? Is Roth IRAs bad? Is life insurance bad? You name it. None of it's bad. None of it's good. It's like, what are you gonna do in your whole strategy, and how is that gonna be efficient, help you live the life that you want? So let me walk through this PDF, and just so everyone knows, like, we're not recording this live. We're recording this a few days before we drop this, so that's why check out the link below. You'll actually get access to the page where that's what we're talking about. And Jen, you are huge as it relates to getting us over the finish line. And we would love to get your feedback on this. But you'll see a video of me speaking, and then you're going to see a 5-page fillable PDF. So you could either print it off or you could fill it out on the computer. And the first question that we ask is under the return on results statement. And it's, how do you define financial success? And what would you do if money wasn't an issue? When it comes to return on result, what has been the aha moment for you as it relates to this concept?
I think at the end of the day, for me personally, it's freedom. Any effort, anything that I'm focusing on that I want it to expand, is it ultimately helping me achieve, freedom? Is it helping me achieve independence? Is it helping me live out my life's purpose and mission and passion? So for me, I have to also remind people, it's not always about numbers. It
Yeah.
isn't
Thank you.
always about numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so much bigger than that. Don't get so fixated on just the numbers on the paper.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of clarity comes when you just ask people, like, how do you define financial success? And someone goes from giving you the answer that they think you want to actually sharing, like, okay, this is actually where I want. Then we ask the question, do you track where your money goes? And it's funny, this is a simple question, but for most people, they don't track their money. And
Mm-mm.
so if the answer is no, what plan or how do you plan to start tracking your money? And then we ask, what your annual income is and how much do you save per year? And then we give a link to where they can go and actually run their better wealth model or cash flow model and just see, again, this is not perfect, but just to see, where they're currently at, where their two lines are at. Are they financially balanced? Is there a lack of balance? And for the very first time for many people, they get to see for themselves like what's actually going on. Now, we know if you don't actually work with a better wealth coach, you might be missing some things. Like you might, you know, think your income is this, but you actually are not accounting for future social security or a future pension, or you might have real estate that actually is a cash flow asset. But we want people to get a snapshot of where they're at. And ultimately, when you go through the x-ray with someone on our team, they actually help identify those sources of income, identify how much money you're saving, and can give you that snapshot. And again, this is not a hopeless situation. It's just getting a pulse on where everything's at. What has been your experience in going through this with clients or seeing this for yourself as it relates to the two-line graph and asking income, savings, and tracking money?
I think at the end of the day, the most common thing is like, wow, that was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Because people think one thing, and then the other thing is like, well, no, this is the reality.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this model is that it's very simple, two colored lines. If they don't line up, then you know that there are some things that we need to adjust. And we went through this with, there's dentists, there's CPAs. It's not just people in financial trouble. There are very successful people that make high incomes that go through this process. So
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, I'm in tons of debt and I'm a mess. It's a
Yeah.
wide range of people, and yet it doesn't even matter. It's such an eye-opening experience. Like, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And the thing that I know when I was going through this with a client was that they saw when the money was going to drop off. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the biggest things that you get from this is like, you think you're saving, you're putting something away, or you have all these different things here and there, but do you really know when all of that is just going to end?
Yeah.
And the scary part is like, have you thought about what if you outlive that point in this graph? And that's the thing that people aren't thinking about. They're thinking about the accumulation, but they're not thinking about, can I sustain that past that age? And I think that's the part where like we really need to show people, you have to know, you need to know, otherwise you're not going to know how to adjust. Or unfortunately, there's some people that I've seen in the past where they realize like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to work forever, and it's
Yeah.
not a pretty situation.
Yeah. You had a friend who's a CPA that went through this that literally said out of all the time he's been in business, he's never had a financial advisor or someone in that field be able to simplify where someone's at so simply. So I think
Oh,
that alone, I mean, that is just a piece of the framework. I think that just is a really good framework. One of the things that we do once we figure out, where you're at, you can either save more money, you can work longer, you can get a better rate of return, you can reduce your future lifestyle, or you might be one of the few people that are like balanced and you're like, hey, I actually want to increase my minimum target. And it's just these are different ways that we can pivot afterwards. Then the next thing that we do is we then list out all your assets. And so if you're following along, it's like you get clear where you want to go, you get a snapshot of where your cash flow's at, and then we're getting your assets and your liabilities. An asset could be anything like your house, could be rental real estate, it could be, retirement plans, it could be a savings account, anything of value. Liabilities are debts, and we have people list that out. We have you put the type, the how much it's worth, any annual contributions that you're putting towards it, what kind of rate of return you're getting, and then we ask people to list benefits of the account, and we give them some options like safety, liquidity, growth, leverageable, guarantees. Is there's tax deductions? Does it grow tax free? Just so you understand that not all assets are created equal, and some assets may so liquidity might be the most important thing for you, or growth might be the most important thing. And so we get people to start looking at that. And then for debts, we have people list out debts, get their balance, we get what they're actually paying in their minimum payment along with their interest rate. But then we also have a debt scorecard, which is a very efficient way to look at where would be the first debt that you would want to knock off. And it answers the question if you should pay off debt, what debts you should start with, and maybe what debts you shouldn't aggressively pay off as it relates to efficiency. So on this side, obviously we're moving quickly, but someone gets clear in where they want to go, they see their model, and then now they get to put their assets and liabilities. What kind of things have you seen going through this process with people that are just eye-opening, or what is something that you've learned in putting this spreadsheet together for us?
I think it forces people to really take a look at their situation. It's no different, and I love that we call it an X-ray, because it's no different than when people have to go to the doctor. And sometimes it's scary, but sometimes it's extremely necessary, because what are you going to do? Try to fix it when you're like stage 4 cancer? And I've seen people go through stuff like that. You need to do something about it while you have the time. Time is the one commodity you cannot make more of. So the earlier you can look at this, the earlier you can get a financial diagnosis, the more options and resources you can to, fix the situation, if that's the situation that you need to do, or if, but I think it forces people, especially that part where they have to categorize the type of asset. Many people don't know. Again, going back to, well, I got this, I think I'm doing okay. And I've always said in the past, you don't want to think, you want to know. You
Yeah,
want
I
to
like that.
know
Yeah.
with certainty, because you cannot take a loan out for, well, I don't have enough for retirement, let me go, apply for a loan. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So this thing is so amazing, because it really forces people to sit down and take a look at the situation. And then in regards to the debt section, I think it's an amazing tool, because people don't know when it comes to like, well, what do I pay off first, or what do I do? It just becomes this financial ball of a mess in their mind. They're like, just help me get, tell me what I need to do. And so
Yeah.
I love, as they go through this whole thing, more and more clarity starts to surface.
Yeah, and this is where the audit really kicks in, because it's like, okay, the model is just showing you where you're projected to go, but a lot of times that's coming from where you're putting your money, how your debts are showing up, and it's like tracking money, assets, and debts very much can pivot, and with that pivot, that evil word pivot, can definitely make a difference. So then what we do is we have an efficiency checklist, and these are quick, like we ask, like we just mentioned something like cash flow, and this is just to get a pulse on like where you're at. So we have 4 options. We have great, we have fair, we have bad, and then we have not applicable. So we ask questions like cash flow. You feel great about it? What feel bad about it? We ask, are you tracking your money? Emergency savings. Emergency savings are so important. Tax strategy. You have a tax strategy. You have a debt strategy. Do you have a growth strategy? Do you have a retirement distribution strategy? And this also just helps like get a pulse on where you're at. And then we ask the question, future life events and purchases, like just make a list of what you have in the future. And then we ask a simple question, do you have an efficient strategy for these future events and purchases? The answer might be yes or no. It could be, future college decisions. There could be a lot of things going on, and you may or may not have put a lot of thought into helping you be more efficient. And then we also have a protection checklist. Why do we have all this? Is we want this to be the one-stop shop where you look at everything and you make sure, like, do I have everything going on? And so we ask the emergency fund question again, because the emergency fund is one of the best things to have as it relates to protecting you, your family, and the future. So we ask, emergency fund, property and casualty insurance. We have life insurance, we have income protection, we have health insurance, we have asset protection, legacy planning. And if you're like, I have no idea what legacy planning is, you'd put not applicable or bad. It's just to get a pulse on what things are going on. And again, if you're talking to somebody on our team, we have a process that goes through all this, but we very much wanted to be the company that shared with you. Like, we don't, like, I just was on a meeting with somebody and I asked a little bit more about their process, and they're like, well, you have to sign up to actually, I won't answer that until you sign up, or I can't show you this until you sign up. And I get why they're doing that, but I'm like, man, I never want to be the company that like hides these questions. And I want to be like, we want to give you the farm, because we know that ultimately the real value is going through with the coach, go through this. And if you don't see the value in that, we want you to at least get the template to do it yourself. Anything on efficiency and protection?
Oh gosh, this is so huge. And I'm going to put in a plug for this because, again, going back to when people first come to me or to any financial professional, usually people want to do the fancy, sexy stuff. I want to invest. I want to build wealth. I want to do all this stuff. And then I feel like, oh, that protection stuff, it's so boring. But it is so necessary, because I tell people all the time, if that foundation is not set, everything that you're trying to build on top of it is just going to blow up. It's just going to blow up, because it's like, it's a very common analogy in our industry where we talk about the financial house, and the protection, the legacy, all that stuff is the foundation. And if you're trying to build that, you don't build a house backwards. You don't start with the roof and then slide in the foundation and the first floor. It doesn't work that way. So there is an order to things if you want to do it right. So this section is so important to really pinpoint and to force you again to look at, do I have these things in place? And if we don't, where do we start so that we are preparing ourselves to be protected and to protect our assets?
I love it. I love it. And you're totally right. Efficiency is not something that you usually talk about. It's always about what rate of return did you get. But I'm telling you, it could break your life. And then the take action spot is, if you're doing this yourself, it's just some things for you to think about. And then we have an area where you can just jot down, like, we really encourage you to find one area that you can move the needle in. Obviously, when people go through the X-ray with us, we give them a report, a one-page report that shows them like the areas that they can be more efficient, the areas that they need to look into. And without being super salesy, I think that report is worth a ton of money, because we've seen, like, Jeremy has an example of a client that in meeting one saved them over $26,000, not by anything investment related, just by helping them see areas that they didn't even know that they could see. And this process starts highlighting those. But these are the areas that we want people to commit to. And there's 6 of them. And after I'm done with the 6, you can give kind of your final thoughts on this report. But the first one is, I commit to tracking my income and expenses. This is just important. And we find that if people do not track where their money's going, there's going to be issues. The second one is, I commit to paying off high interest debt right away. Another way to say this is, paying off bad debt. Number 3 is I commit to stop making extra payments on efficient debts. It's just something that makes us unique. Number 4 is I commit to using cash flow optimization strategies to increase cash flow. Number 5, I commit to creating and implementing a complete protection plan for myself and my family. And number 6, I commit to living intentionally and making decisions based on my goals, not just rate of return. Anything that jumps out to you in those 6 commitments?
I think all of them. And it's going to be different for each person, which one's the priority and which one is, at the bottom of the list. But I think this section is so powerful because commitments are huge. You can't expect a certain outcome and say, well, I'll see. I'll see if I get to it. I'll see what I can do. I mean, that is so wishy-washy. It's not going to get you anywhere. When you want to make massive changes when it comes to your financial situation, protecting your assets, growing wealth, using strategies, all that stuff, it takes commitment. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes commitment. Why do you think people use affirmations? It's a commitment. It's reinforcing it in your brain that you are going to be dedicated to doing these things. You can't expect serious massive change if you're saying things like, we'll see, I'll try, I'll think about it. You can just even energetically feel there is no commitment behind that.
Yep.
And so I think this list is so huge and important because you're really taking a stand. This is important to me. My future, my family's future is important to me. I'm going to take action. I'm going to commit to it. And I'm willing to do the work that it takes to make these changes.
Yep. Jen, I absolutely love it. I'm very excited for people to start going through it. Just so you know, like the reason why we have this X-ray training is this is going to be one of the ways that people get introduced to BetterWealth. We're going to give them the free training, give them the PDF that I just went through, and then invite them if they want more, if they want to be introduced to our company, they can go through our X-ray, which there's other bonuses as well, but it's essentially a very low barrier of entry. It is that we are going to charge something, right? But it's a low barrier of entry for them to actually have that one-on-one time with someone on our team that can walk them through that. And then they can have a lot more clarity on where they need to go from there. And so thank you. I'm just so grateful for what you're doing on the front lines and all the other exciting things that you have going on. Before we leave, is there anything else on your mind? Any last words that you want to share with the BetterWealth family?
Just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm just so grateful because in your life, you think, well, I'll say for me, there's always that moment where you think, am I doing everything that's possible? Am I doing everything with my God-given talents, abilities? Am I using it to the maximum potential? And then you also start to think of the situations that you're in and that you find these opportunities and what you choose to align yourself with. And there have been some that have been great. There have been some that, okay, they're not so great. And then there's this one that you feel full congruency and alignment with. And so I want to say that that's what I feel with the team, with BetterWealth. And I tell friends that are in the business space, the entrepreneurial space, and I'm like, when you feel it, you will know. You will know when you found your people. You will know when you're in the right place. And I was just having this talk with a client yesterday, and she's kind of going through this, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to talk to my pastor. I'm like, you need to we'll pray for clarity, wisdom, and discernment. And I told her, if you're already feeling, pay attention to that and pray over that. But I told her, when you find the right thing, you will feel it. It will feel like ease and grace. And so I just want to say thank you so much for providing that opportunity for me.
Jen, it goes both ways. Thank you so much for being in the studio, walking through the epiphanies that you've been having, the conversations that you've been having. We're excited about this X-ray. And like I said, I'm not 100% what the link is, but you can, if you're listening to this on a podcast, you can check out in the podcast player. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out in the description below. I can confidently say the best is yet to come. So thank you for being on this journey. Everyone that's watching and listening, thank you for being on this journey. Also a plug, if you go to betterwealthpodcast.com, it's betterwealthpodcast.com, a common question that we'll get is, I love the show. Where do I start? And that gives you some of the best episodes. I've had the opportunity to interview some amazing people. We have some really good, tight interviews that explain the and asset, explain the BetterWealth model, that introduce you to people on our team. So if you want to learn more, you can go to betterwealthpodcast.com, check out more there. With that, have a great rest of your Friday, great rest of your weekend, and continue to live intentionally. Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.